If Earth is flat, why won't the sea leak to space and evaporate fully?
Say that again.
Earth is flat, why won't the seawater leak to space and evaporate fully in the vacuum?
Because outer space is fake and the air is
Okay, somebody
contained,
is
so there's
laughing, I'm
no
leaving.
gas to evacuate into a thing that doesn't exist. That's why.
Well, it's just ironic, that's all. Oh, bro, don't be a
Wait. You're
snowflake.
saying the space doesn't exist?
Yeah, we don't think that the Earth is a disk in outer space. That's not what we're saying.
You don't
Yeah.
believe that
So if
there's
outer space,
vacuum outside the space in the
if
space?
outer space doesn't exist, there's no vacuum for all of the air and water to rush off into.
Well, yesterday when I asked about seawater, why doesn't seawater uh like go outside the earth and stuff? Somebody here who was a moderator told me, yeah, outer space is like a vacuum, and inside the vacuum, water evaporates immediately, and I don't know, stuff like this. So,
Yeah, that's the story, right?
but you're saying there's
The
no outer
story
space right
is
now.
that the sphere Earth is surrounded by a vacuum, right? But in reality, when you have water in a vacuum, it evaporates. Yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah, okay, but
outer
why doesn't the
space
water
doesn't
evaporate
exist because outer space is a vacuum. You have water on Earth, right? So there's no vacuum
Yeah,
because
but
in a
why
vacuum,
water
water
on
evaporates.
Earth, but why doesn't the water in the edges of the flat Earth leak and go
Uh,
like fall
There's a
Outer space
misunderstanding.
is fake. So there's no
Yeah, there's
disk in outer space. You're inside of
right.
a
There's a misunderstanding.
container. Yeah.
Clear it up for him.
Since outer space is fake, there's no disk in outer space, so there's no water falling off and leaking into outer space. It's a contained system. Water is contained, the gas is contained, there's no vacuum.
what are the stars that we see at night then?
They're lights, and I don't know what they're made of, and I don't know what they are. I don't know how high they are. I know that they're there because I look and see they're there.
Oh, I think that was too much for him.
I wrote the script, and he doesn't know what else to say. Damn, leave.
Yeah, I have a question too. So, like, if gravity is supposedly holding or creating the container, why can't it be performed on Earth, like on the surface? Why can't they reconstruct that experiment?
I don't know.
You'd think they could, right? So they could have
Yeah.
like a significantly sized vacuum chamber and just insert the tiniest little bit of gas into it, right? And it should all just like settle at the bottom
Yeah, like
and do what it does.
gravity's stronger the closer you get to the Earth, right? That's where so it should be easier to create a container using gravity down on Earth than it would be closer to space.
Right. So I think that they'd say that like so the kinetic energy that the gas has, right, is they can't though, can they? So they're saying that the kinetic energy the gas has at the surface is greater than the gravitational influence. I will say.
Yeah, that's how you
Right.
have evaporation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because that like the gas molecules moving at how fast is it? Like 500? Is it 500 meters a second or something like that?
Way more than
Gas
that, man.
particle.
Thousands.
More than that? Oh, thousands. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm way off. There you go. Yeah.
It depends. It depends. I mean, like if you cool down a gas and you see it clumping together like in a sink, like let's say you take frozen oxygen, plunk it in your sink and you watch it sublimate or something. You're going to see it go from a solid state to a vapor, and it's going to bypass the liquid state altogether instantaneously. And as those molecules heat up, I mean, they're just going to go faster and faster and faster until they equilibrate with the environment. So when it leaves your sink, they're not going to be moving very fast, but if they're allowed to continue to heat up, they're just going to keep going and zooming. Like, you won't be able to see them.
Right. So I guess they're saying that so the gas's kinetic energy is very great, but as it ascends, it gains potential gravity energy. Right?
Yeah. I don't know what to call it. I'll go with that too, man. What do you call it when you pick up a rock from the ground? You lift it up high.
Yep. Potential energy.
Yeah. The rock isn't moving and you're holding it. You're holding it, you're holding it. And they could maybe like set it on a shelf, and the shelf is now holding it. Mic check. Am I coming in? Was I just getting cut off there?
My shit made me jump out also. So I think it was Discord.
Okay, so I was saying, like, people ask how does an apple fall from a tree? I was going through the process of, well, somebody takes a seed, the seed turns into a sprig, which turns into a tree, the tree grows, and then it bears fruit. The apple literally came out of the ground and was lifted up. And then when the apple detaches from the stem, it falls back to the earth where it came from. So the cycle's complete. But people don't think of energy like this. They don't think of the transfer of energy in these terms at all. So, like, if you were to pick up a rock and you were to place it on a shelf, maybe on a ledge, and a guy a million years later came and saw the rock on there, knocked it off the ledge, and it fell to the ground, he would have no idea that that rock had all the potential energy built up from what was required from somebody a million years prior expending heat and calories to pick up that rock off the ground and lift it up, increase its energy state, and stick it onto a shelf. People don't think of gravitation in these terms. And I'm old enough to remember when that's how it used to be taught in school, honestly. I mean, it's not saying that we know what it is. Nobody's attributing like space time or mass attracting mass causes. It's really just an exchange of energy.
Yeah, like an elastic band, but without the elastic material.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, basically nothing moves, right? Nothing
Yeah.
falls without some type of energy exchange, some type
That's
of
right.
it has to be forced out of its natural state of rest by some sort of energy exchange, essentially.
There's
That's all
still
it
like
is.
there's people still looking at it as a mystery and coming up with alternatives to what's been presented over the last couple of hundred years, right? Or few hundred years.
Yeah.
I mean, I just read an article the other day about it. They're considering it to be more of an entropic effect, right?
Love it.
Like there's just all these different ideas about it. They're still throwing it around, like like it's a ball to be played with, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that it's funny that they call it an entropic effect when, currently when it's been described by people coming into our Discord as a negative entropic effect. It's reversing the entropy of gas molecules. Which is funny because gas
It
molecules
is
expand
ironic.
without work, right? It's like saying that picking up the rock and putting it on the shelf was done without work. gas molecules expand from the source without exchanging energy with the environment.
This fucking gosh.
Think about that for a minute. So it's not analogous. Like when the sun releases like UV light and it slams into a rock and the rock chirps off some kind of nitrogen molecule that then like flies up into the air. Is that the same thing as picking up a rock and putting it on a shelf? Well, the funny thing is gravity doesn't pull down on that nitrogen molecule, but it does pull down on the rock. The nitrogen molecule expands without expending any energy into its environment, without that exchange. But the rock that you pick up absolutely does. So it's weird, man. Like gas molecules are weird. Unbonded matter seems to obey a different set of principles than solid matter or bonded matter. I mean, they call
Right.
it the different
Yeah.
states of matter, right? So the different states have different principles that apply. Go ahead, T-Dub.
But it's just I was listening to um, Richard Feynman speak, the other day, and though he's advocate for the idea of gravity, blah blah, even though he'd probably tell you at the end of the day, hey, look, I got no idea what it is, right? But he was talking about the electromagnetic force. He's saying how intricately that is, um, you know, inside everything, right? Like, and it's like dictating everything. He's like he really loved that force, and he's saying it dictates our reality. He was saying like everything's held together by it, everything or other things are repelled by it, right? Like he's and during his little speech on it, on that, he wasn't discussing gravity. It was like gravity took a back seat, or wasn't even invited to the party. You know what I mean?
It's funny. That's true. He is like that, and a lot of engineers and scientists seem to have that same sentiment. I mean, I happen to know I happen to know quite a few engineering graduates from Rensselaer Polytechnic, and one of them was telling me that anytime gravitation or gravity was brought up on any of his exams, you just ignored it. Ever really thought about it like that? He was an aerospace engineer, and imagine that. Imagine being an aerospace engineer. Imagine taking graduate level engineering exams and not considering gravity to the extent that people do here when they come in and talk to us.
Well, I guess in that field, you're really only concerned about the effect, in the environment that whatever you're building is going to be operating within. I guess you're not really concerned about overarching, cause, right? You just want
Right,
your device to operate correctly and safely as possible,
right.
and you really only need to be concerned about the effects. As long as you understand what's going to happen to your device within a specific environment, that's all you need to really account for, right?
Yeah, you could consider gravitation as an effect, as the phenomenon that's observed, and we don't know the actual cause. But what it does describe is a statistical distribution of density, which is not necessarily related to the atmosphere. Because you can't like predict, you can't take the inverse square law, apply it to what the mass of Earth is supposed to be, and then predict how much the atmosphere thins out from the center of the Earth to the surface and the surface out to space. Because what we observe in this gradation, this thinning out of the air, does not comport to the inverse square law at all based off of the mass of the gases as it's currently understood. And the ad hoc rescue devices, well, it's a dynamic system, the Globers will say, and they sound like us, and be like, yeah, they're at different regions of the atmosphere, you have different effects happening. And at some point, you get to the thermosphere where suddenly it gets hot again. It was warm at the surface and then it got extremely cold and then it started getting warmer again. So you have a real mess. You have this non uniformity of everything stretching from the surface all the way up into whatever does not comport to the inverse square law at all. What I find funny too is when they say that, well, the gravitation of Earth allows you to accelerate tangential to a supposed curvature of the Earth. As long as you move in one direction fast enough from a specific height, and your speed your velocity according to that height, you're going to be falling forward. Your gravitational vector is no longer inward towards the center of the Earth. It's going to be tangential to the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, where's the satellites that are, that are orbiting against the rotation of the Earth?
Yeah. So what about all the gas molecules? They expand in all directions. They go this way and that way and all over. Let's say you have a source of gas production from the surface, as it's currently known. It's where gases are produced on the surface of Earth. You've got a bunch that are going to be flying somewhat tangential to the surface of the Earth at thousands of meters per second. Are they going to be doing geodesic arcs? Well, and the Glober would say,
Yeah.
well, yeah, they will until they collide with other gas molecules. And here's what's really funny. I'm also old enough to remember being taught that gas molecules are so small that the chances of them bumping into another gas molecule is basically infinitesimal. Such as, like, you don't even have to consider it in most circumstances, except for like very specific cases, laboratory conditions, and things like that. But in nature, you're not going to expect it to happen. But nowadays, you read about gas molecules and it suddenly feels like it's a bumper car full of 10-year-olds just slamming their cars into each other on a track, every which way in that. And this is what prevents their own claim, holding consistently of gas molecules no longer traveling in straight lines linearly, but taking geodesic paths. Before we don't have a chance to falsify that because it's going to collide into another gas molecule. So they make their own claim unfalsifiable by now saying the gas molecules are bumping into each other like 10-year-olds in a bumper car track. That,
Yeah.
30 years ago, they weren't saying that in school when I was young. They weren't saying that. They were saying that space is so far spread apart and the atoms, the molecules are so tiny, the gas molecules in the air never even know each other exists. Like, just passing by each other. So, it's funny to see the narratives change. You live long enough and you start to see these changes. Like when I was young, NASA images were always composites, artistic renditions, and everybody knew that that NASA was a big art house. And somewhere around, I would say maybe the mid to late 90s to early 2000s, with the last of the space shuttles and the beginning of the ISS, things started to change. NASA stopped putting these captions underneath these images. I mean, I was a big NASA junkie growing up. We lived in a NASA household. I've got postcards from the Houston Space Flight Center from like the 1980s. My got family members that used to work in astronomy, radio astronomy, satellites. So
Yeah.
it's just really interesting, man. Like I was locked into this. I remember being young, dude. I remember like when they said that the first image of Pluto was coming in. Maybe it had already come in by this point. I hadn't seen it yet, but regardless, it was brand new when I remember this happening. And I remember thinking to myself, I was already skeptical, like NASA being a big, gigantic art house. Like my mom and dad would talk about this and would bicker back and forth. My dad used to think like I do, if you know what I mean. My mom was the one who was connected to NASA and in working capacity at one point. But I remember thinking, wow, wouldn't it be funny if like somehow Pluto, the dog, like found its way on the planet's surface of Pluto when they show us the image? And then I looked at the image. It was like in like a Sky and Telescope magazine or something. And then I turned the page and there it freaking was. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. It's a silhouette of a freaking Pluto dog on Pluto. You gotta be kidding me. You know, I was in my teens or something. I remember looking at that and I mean, I was like, this is just stupid. I still believed in outer space. I still believed in the Big Bang. I still believed in satellites and astronauts and space shuttles and all that stuff, the moon landing. It was all near and dear to my heart. But I was like, what the heck is wrong with these NASA people, these artists? This is just not right. Like, you guys, NASA, you got to hire some more honest artists because this is terrible. It's so on the nose. And then fast forward on to like 15 years when one of the blue marble images of Earth came out with the clouds that had SCX written in the clouds, just like what happened in Lion King, which I think came out a few years prior, the movie with the SCX with the leaves.
Right.
You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. You guys, again and again, and my belief started to crack at that point. But
And it seems like a recurring trend. I mean, we like around holiday events, and we get images released from the space agencies, like Halloween. Oh, we just happened to find this skull-shaped galaxy. Like look at or nebula or
jack
whatever.
o'
Like, and
lantern.
I, I look at this
Oh yeah,
quasar
the
that's emitting
skull-shaped
light like a
galaxy. That's
Christmas
another thing.
tree.
Wait,
I was
Right?
thinking
Like
the
it's
didn't they
jack-o'-lantern of
say
like the sunspots.
Uranus? Didn't they say Uranus stank or something like that? It had like smelled like gas, like farts or some shit like that. I remember reading about
Oh,
that.
yeah, that it smells like
yeah,
yeah.
Methane or something.
Yeah, they're like they're literal
smells like farts.
layer of
Yep.
Uranus that open up like sulfuric fart smells. Yeah, like oh gosh. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
and it's gotten worse over the years. I gotta
It'd be
say,
like if
peak
they
NASA was the 1980s and early 90s, and it just got worse.
right. It'd be like if they turned around and said, like, scientists have just discovered that Saturn's rings actually contains a lot of gold, and ironically enough, embedded in it is a giant diamond.
Oh man.
If you ask the internet the question just right, you can get it to say that Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune rain diamonds.
And now, like, black
So
holes are
they what?
hairy.
Oh yeah, the hairy black holes.
It just keeps digging further into the barrel of degeneracy. It's unbelievable.
Well, didn't like Walt Disney and he had like Satanists like Jack Parsons, like didn't they have a what was the other, what was the Nazi, the German, his name escapes
Von
me.
Braun.
Yeah, didn't they have like, didn't like Walt Disney have a lot to do with NASA, right? Or
Oh,
did
yeah.
I
Yeah,
read that wrong?
Disney and Von Braun were best buddies.
And then you had like Jack Parsons, who was like a known occultist, who was like known for doing like sex rituals and followed that
Friends
Thelema.
with what was his name? Friends with the
Aleister
um
Crowley.
Crowley. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
Tried
Crowley.
to
Yeah,
impregnate a woman. Like,
on the Blood Moon.
yeah. Oh, jeez, dude. It's so sick. I mean, that's why JPL's called Jet Propulsion and not Jack Parsons Laboratory, as it was
Yeah.
originally named. They had to divest themselves a little bit from that, but they still retain all their freaking weirdness.
Another thing I always found interesting was the fact that NASA, like, so when they do their countdown, they would do like the T minus, they do like T minus 10, 9, and then like, if you add T to NASA, it would spell Satan. I always thought that was kind of weird. Maybe it's just coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah, they minus the T. Yeah.
Tsukuyomi in the chat seems to be interested, asking questions about the sky and the luminaries in general. It's a mystery, man. I don't know if he's listening, if he can hear us talking, but if not on here on YouTube.
He wasn't in the VC. He just didn't open his microphone.
Okay. I mean, for everybody else, I mean, my personal take is the sky is so beyond our comprehension. You really have to scale it back. Like, you have to scale it back. No, the moon landings didn't happen, so we didn't go there. No, we don't have Voyager space probes going out beyond the solar system. That's not true either. Scale it back. Scale it back about 100 years. As a starting point to scale it back further. We don't know anything about these things in the sky at night. The celestials, what their distances are, what their composition is, how they manifest, or anything like that. We don't know if the way they manifest is completely observer dependent or not. If there's a medium, an exotic medium up there that is responsible for its apparent observer dependent behavior, or if it's medium independent and has more to do with our perception, the interplay between the biology of our eyes and our brains.
We're in
We
a
don't
video
know
game,
if,
bro.
huh?
We're in a video game on some kid's computer in his basement. This is all
No,
in the Matrix.
It's flat if that's the case. You know, people say that they can use the stars to navigate by, but to what degree of accuracy and how do you validate it? Do the stars like Polaris really shift 69 miles per degree? Is that the same everywhere? Is it symmetrical? Is it asymmetrical? How do you account for the distance when you're in the middle of the Pacific? 2,000 miles from land in all directions. 4,000 miles from land in all directions. How do you even begin? Oh, you're going to use GPS? Well, that's circular logic. Go ahead. Someone open their mic. Oh, we use the sun to account for time. Universal time, UT. You have what the sun does when it goes from one point in the sky and returns to that same exact point in the sky after about 365 days and some change. You've got clocks. You've got really precise atomic clocks, like your microwave. Your microwave clock keeps time to like the 10,000th decimal of a second or something ridiculous. And the sun seems to be less reliable, is more variable than your microwave clock. Every now and then you'll catch a glimpse of this. You'll see it in the news, like, oh my gosh, is Earth speeding up in its rotation? Is Earth speeding up in its revolution around the sun? What is going on? They'll make a big deal out of microseconds or nanoseconds, whatever. Maybe more variable than that.
It's okay. When their clock starts getting off, they start saying things like, well, the tsunami caused the Earth's rotation to go backwards a fraction of a second, even though nobody knows.
They'll say that, but here's the thing. I think, and I may be wrong, somebody please correct me. I think they actually take their atomic clocks, which are I would want to believe are super accurate, but there's some reasons to believe that they may not be, due to like electron orbital decay or whatever. Assuming that they are extremely accurate, I think they actually correct them for the sun. That when there's a discrepancy between the atomic clock and the sun, they refer to nature as the true reference, and they adjust their atomic clock back to match the sun. I mean, for practical purposes, it would make sense to do, right? Because if you were to let the discrepancy ride out long enough, you can't correct the sun to the atomic clock. Eventually, you're going to have the clock like showing it's morning when it's midnight. So, yeah, they adjust their atomic clocks to the sun. I don't think I'm wrong about that. UTC versus UT1, I think is where it is. And this gets into the equation of time, how we keep track of time. Yeah. If the sun is variable and if the clocks are variable, then do we have any accurate accounting for time? When you start looking into relativity, reference frames are all observer centric, relative. There's no absolute time either. There's no absolute frame of reference. There's no absolute frame of reference for you to conduct celestial navigation, which requires time. How do you do longitude without a clock? There's no absolute frame of reference, therefore, when looking at the stars without a clock and just recording their angles. Everybody sees a star in a consistent but unique position relative to them. Just like looking at the sun's reflection off the water at your feet at the ocean
Bro,
in the
this
sunset.
server, what?
Hey, look, it's a dude with a freaking like GTA 2.0
Yeah, bro, I'm
avatar.
CJ, bro, Carl Jensen. Ah,
Wow. Do these guys listen in and like to butt in right at the most opportune time? I don't know. Sure seems to be, though.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
This guy basically joined the server last week. If you guys don't make judicious use of the notes section for users, I recommend doing it. Take 5 seconds, click on their profile, add a note, date the note, date it. You'll never know when you see it again. And you'll be glad that you did when you do.
Oh, I haven't been dating it, but I've been just putting in a really basic profile, like visitor, speaker, noise bomber, just whatever, this little. But I don't always do it, but I've been trying to do it more regularly.
Yeah. I started doing it a couple years ago, and it took a long time, but it's starting to pay off. Okay, we got somebody in the chat, Surreal791. UTC is based on 0 degrees longitude, Greenwich, not the North Pole. Yeah, I'd imagine so, that it's based off of Greenwich, not the North Pole. I don't know why you would think I would think it'd be off the North Pole. Longitude is more or less a function of time. And it's not based off Greenwich, so Surreal791, it's based off of the time that the sun is at its zenith over Greenwich.
How do they decide what's the eastern and western hemispheres?
I would
I would
assume it
assume
would
it's
be
east and west of Greenwich.
yeah, and then plus the way they have made the two lines in the sky to identify the four quarters of the sky, where the stars pretty much make a straight line, and then wherever that is associated with Greenwich, that would be the east and west. So if Scorpio is over Greenwich, then east and west of Scorpio, respectively.
I remember watching something about, I didn't fully understand it, but apparently our tropics are misnamed, that they shouldn't be called that anymore or something. That's from a time in the past when those circles coincided with those constellations, but they no longer do or something. So Capricorn and Cancer's incorrect,
Oh, yeah.
but we still
Yeah,
call them that.
Bill Nye explained that in one of his videos back when we were kids. I remember that.
I like the idea that it's based off of maps that might be 12,000 years old. Because it's going to be when the sun rises in the east on the equinox in whatever constellation it was at that particular. Not yeah. Was it based off the equinox? No, it'd be based off the solstice. Excuse me, duh. Like the sun rising in the solstice, 90 degrees, not 90, well, just off 90s would be like whatever degrees that would be. 90 minus 23.4. So you're
If
looking
I remember
east,
it being described, it would be
and the sun is
the
in that
summer in a lemma
Cancer.
and the constellation that sits in that spot. That's the identifier. And so it's shifted over, I think it's a 2,000 year span.
Is it 2000? Okay, so maybe thousands of years ago, the sun used to rise on the solstice and be where the Tropic of Cancer would be at that particular point. And it's no longer the case.
I'll see if I can find the video.
And the same with the Capricorn. There's so much like I got this great book, and you guys have probably heard of it too. The Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings by Charles Hapgood. If that name rings a bell, it's because he did all this research into old maps and found that Christopher Columbus took maps, which he got from the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, who had just recently conquered the Byzantine Empire. So the Sultan got his map from the Byzantine, the Eastern Orthodox Christians. So he basically, Christopher Columbus was working off of Roman maps, Eastern Orthodox Christian maps. It had mapped out Antarctica, parts of the coastline of Antarctica, as well as parts of Brazil. And it was validated by the U.S. Air Force, like mapping agency. Some colonel, like he wrote to Air Force or something, and Air Force wrote back, and they got all these letters in the back of the book, their correspondence, saying, "Yeah, it looks like it could be true. It has to be true." Some of these maps from deep ancient history are pretty mysterious. Maybe somebody went there at one point and surveyed it. So these traditions, I mean, they would use celestial navigation. So the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn probably just kind of stuck from whatever age that was. Probably goes back to the Phoenicians, whoever they were. Somewhere in New Hampshire, there's like a serpent mound. There's like they call it the Stonehenge of North America in the state of New Hampshire. They believe that it was a Phoenician settlement from like 3,000 years ago. Yeah, crazy stuff, guys. I almost think that North and South America might have been one of the biggest secrets that all the kings in the upper class, the aristocracy of ancient empires knew about, but never really talked about. Like maybe this was a place you could go to get away from your empire, kind of like a Bohemian Grove.
You also have Jekyll Island being a Canaanite island.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. Yeah, Canaanites are related to the Phoenicians. Right.
Yep. And over the, I think it's the dining hall, or underneath the dining hall in the basement was an altar. So where the signing of the Federal Reserves happened was over
Yeah.
a Canaanite altar.
Now, all these Epstein files have come out which I would love to talk about as much as it's off topic, though. The ancient demons of old never left. They're here. The mask just dropped.
The 13 bloodlines? The like the Illuminati bloodlines?
We're talking deeper history than that. Anyway,
What's your opinion on the Admiral Byrd and the Antarctica thing? Do you think he actually like found something, or was that just a false story to send people down rabbit holes or something?
I don't trust him because he falsified his expeditions to the North Pole that took place 20 years prior to all this. He lied based off of what I've researched. He lied about his sextant readings and his positioning. And the royal societies that backed him also backed his lies. And this has been completely destroyed, for his claims destroyed forensically. I've got a write-up about this in some sources in our home server presentation too. So yeah, I don't trust Admiral Byrd. I don't believe a single thing he says. I don't think anyone should. You know, in his fake expedition to the North Pole could have been used as a leverage against him to be a propaganda tool for post-World War II accomplishments, advancing the notion that America's hegemonic power should not be challenged. Those Antarctic expeditions directly preceded the space program. We're part of the same psychological operations program headed by the president to cement American hegemony and power, this projection of prestige around the world. So, yeah. You know, it's not like I'm hand wave dismissing these claims. It's no, I've got good reason to dismiss these claims. Not with a hand wave, it's more with a chainsaw and a mallet. See, I've got a minute here if I can pull up something about all this that I posted elsewhere. Let's see. I pull it up. Never mind. There's a chance I was conflating Byrd with Admiral Perry.
Yeah, I mean, Byrd was the one that supposedly went to Antarctica during Operation High Jump, and there was like rumors. I don't know if he had stuff in his diary said that there's like another world in like basically like a concave Earth, basically that like another
Yeah. Do you know the
civilization that
history
lived
of
under
that
there.
diary, dude? That diary's a fabrication, like by his
I
brother.
believe that. Yeah, I can believe that for sure.
Yeah. So like I just no. That
Well, that's like
diary is
when
so full
everything
of
like
crap.
Antarctica got like super like secret, right? I mean, that's when shortly after uh all the nations signed the agreement, right? Whatever the treaty is. Shortly after that, so like basically that Antarctica is just like a no-go neutral zone for science and.
Yep. Oh, okay. So yeah, I was right. It wasn't Perry. It was Bird. Yeah, his North Pole. Most people don't know that he's credited with flying to the North Pole.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, let me pull this up. Yeah, and jeez, freaking lunatic. Right? Do I have it? No, I don't have anything available right now that I posted. Yeah, so as I was saying before, so he claims to have like flown his airplane over the North Pole, and then he's got this diary, but some really smart chronologers, astronomers, Dennis Rollins from DIOI, for example, dug into his numbers and discovered forensically that Admiral Byrd and his helpers backed into the sextant readings that Admiral Byrd used to claim that he flew over the North Pole. He didn't actually take them, because if he did, he would have gotten different numbers, different angles, and different times. He messed up. And so if this happened in like the 1920s, like 1929 or something, right? And since he had the backing of the entire like Western world, at least North America behind him, these prestigious royal societies, these American institutes, these organizations knowing full well of the fraud that existed, why would Admiral Byrd be selected then to go to Antarctica and make similar claims? If not there being leverage that could be used against him. We own you, Admiral Byrd. We helped you falsify your Northern Pole expeditions. We convinced the public that you really went there when you didn't. You're going to pretend to go to the South for us. We'll make you one of the most famous men in history, and all your relatives and your friends, everybody's going to worship you as a hero. So we not
What do
only
you
control you, we're not only
what do
going
you
to
think
beat
the
you with a stick, but we'll feed you a carrot.
what do you think the
Right.
motive was? Like why they would want him to do that? Just to be a propaganda machine? Just
Yeah. It's a perfect guy to do it. He was already a hero. I'm going to post some links to substantiate what I'm talking about here. And then I have to get going. Yeah, I'm doing that. I'm going to drop some links and I'm going to run. Actually, I have to help cook some dinner. So hang tight. Save these. Go look at them later. It's a damn chat. Here we go. Here they are. Right? Gotta get going. Wish I could stay.